Good afternoon and welcome to the Africam Show. Here we have got a debut creature for the Africam Show. It is the Cape ground squirrel. Now, I have told you that before greeting you and telling you who I am, for I am fearful that the ground squirrel will go away, never to be seen again. My name is James Hendry. It's lovely to have you with us. Please do send through any questions that you'd like to on whatever platform you happen to be watching this show. It'll be lovely to have some interaction with you. Rolling Trouble, hello from Washington. Michael S., hello from North Carolina in the USA. Aussie Jan, hello from down under, coffee and all. Aussie Jan, I'm not sure how I went American there. Linda Poley, James is my favorite guide of all time. Thank you, Linda Poley, that's very kind of you. Gemma, hello James, and all sunny and hot in New Jersey. Well, won't be for long. Amber CEO, Amber, I think it's Colorado, looking forward to another great show. Thank you. Tammy, hello everyone. Aussie Jan 2, one question. How big and tall does a spring hare grow, and one on or at a distance looks tall? The one on, oh right, the one on the Olifants River at a distance looks tall. Right, we'll get back to the spring hare now, Aussie Jan. We're currently going to enjoy a sighting of 3 pixels worth of a ground squirrel at Campus Dam. Now, Campus Dam is around Kimberley, which is a regrettable settlement somewhere in the central parts of southern Africa. It has one or two charms to it, including an enormous hole from which many diamonds were taken over the course of the 19th century and probably the early 20th century. And other than that, there's some quite interesting landscapes around Kimberley and quite a lot of conservation land. And it's a semi-arid area. I think the rainfall is probably around about 350 millimeters a year, maybe up to 400. And that would be around about the wettest limit for the ground squirrels. Now, their distribution does cover the Campus Dam area, but this is the very first one that we have seen on the Campus Dam camera. So there it is, a little Cape ground squirrel. So I'll tell you a little bit about them. They are rodents, as are all squirrels. They live in little groups, normally, of around about 3 females and their attendant offspring, with apparently up to 9 sub-adults. This one is obviously not a very nice ground squirrel, for it is alone and has no friends. Males live in sort of loose affiliations. Oh, disappeared suddenly. Oh, it's back again. They live in loose affiliations and will join each other from time to time and then move on and look for ladies to mate with. And that's the basic organization of the little ground squirrel. They live in burrows, in a network of burrows that's normally around about sort of 700 square meters or so. And so it's quite unusual that this little chap or little female has just arrived here. I suspect it's a young male because it's never been seen before and is probably dispersed from another area and will have to dig itself a little burrow there. They do not hibernate. It doesn't actually get cold enough normally in this part of the world for hibernation to be necessary. They hide from the cold and from the heat under the ground, and that's probably what this little chap will do as night falls in the Kimberley region of southern Africa. So that is the Cape ground squirrel, a world premiere on the Africam Show. Isn't that amazing? I'm just going to quickly address another world premiere. That was the the spring hare that Aussie Jan referred to on the Olifants River, which was seen this last year. Aussie Jan, spring hare, is about, say, a metre tall, 3 feet or so. Maybe a bit shorter than that, actually. Just under that. Say 2.5 feet tall if they're standing on their tippy toes. And for those of you who haven't seen a spring hare, they're the most ridiculous looking creatures. They look like miniature kangaroos, although they are not marsupials. They are the standard issue placental mammals, like us and all the other African mammals. There are no African marsupials. Hello, Bob from Kalamazoo. Hello, Mary Momo. Hello to all my Africam friends from Hot Springs, Arkansas. Bob from Kalamazoo. Hello, James. What is the real name of a duffy? Oh, a dussie. You're thinking of a dussie. Another world premiere. 3 world premieres today. We are going to the dussie now. There we go. We are sitting with the dussie. Now, this is at the Black Eagle's Nest area on the west rand of Johannesburg, or the west rand of the Witwatersrand. And this is a dussie, D-A-S-S-I-E, and not Duffy, Bob from Kalamazoo, D-U-F-F-Y. And its real name, or its more correct name, would be a rock hyrax. A rock hyrax. And this is the very favorite food of the black eagle, and it is therefore not surprising that the black eagles are thriving on the west rand of Johannesburg in this rocky area. And that's simply because there are so many dussies around there. Now, we have seen them before. We just haven't seen them in this one's current state. And by that I mean alive. This one is alive. You can see it breathing during the warm spring air that is enveloping Johannesburg right now. And we have seen many of its colleagues, possibly family members, being devoured by the black eagles. And it's probably worth mentioning that the black eagle chick fledged this week as well. So a very busy time on the Africam cameras this week. Barbara Washington, you said you couldn't have a better host than James Henry. Oh, thank you, Barbara. That's very kind of you. Rolling Trouble, the black eagle did not fledge yesterday. It fledged, I'm going to get notification now. I think it was 2 days ago. Oh, this one's running away. Perhaps the little black eagle is about to arrive and try and eat it. Yeah, Sunday. Oh, I see. Sorry, you said, did the black eagle fledge yesterday? No longer on cams. On Sunday it fledged but is still hanging around. Rolling Trouble, I'm struggling to understand your question. So it fledged on Sunday. In other words, it took its first flight on Sunday. It will still be around, but it will not go back to the nest necessarily. It will probably stay within the vicinity of the nest for a couple of months. And I suspect the camera will be able to pick it up at some stage. Just quite a nice view there of the dussie's foot. And that foot structure, believe it or not, is very similar to the... Oh, I see. Sorry. 1 second. Rolling Trouble, I do apologize. My wife is putting extras next to your question to explain what's going on. Okay, so yes, it fledged on Sunday, the black eagle. There we go. Your question is answered. Now, I'm going to get back to the foot structure of the rock hyrax there, which, believe it or not, is quite similar to the foot structure of the elephant. And although this hyrax looks much more like the ground squirrel we just saw, it is not a rodent. It belongs to a family all on its own, And the rock hyraxes, or the hyraxes, there are quite a few of them, are most closely related to the elephants. They are part of, if I'm not mistaken, a group called the Afrothera, and they're originally an African group. This one is very tired or drunk. I think it's just leaning against a rock and enjoying the warmth of the sun, perhaps post some moonshine brewed in the West Rand of Johannesburg. It's not hard to find moonshine in the West Rand of Johannesburg, so perhaps that's what this Dussie's been on. He's very cute. They're extremely appealing animals. And almost always where you can find a rock hyrax, you will find black eagles, or Verreaux's eagles. This chap is now passing out. That's rather amusing. So, 2 world premieres before we've got even 10 minutes into the show. Quite astonishing stuff. Let's see if we've got any other action going on. Some of the other cameras. I will ask the director, Max, to cut to another one. Let's go to Tau. There we go. Now we're at Tau, which is in the northwestern regions of South Africa, Limpopo Province, Madikwe Game Reserve, and the gorgeous colours of the business end of the dry season now taking hold there. And this is the most wonderful time to come on safari. And the reason for that is that it is now getting very dry. The temperatures are increasing, especially in the lower lying areas of South Africa. And that means the water is concentrating and a lot of action around the waterholes. And you can see these elephants are going to come into this waterhole more and more frequently as the rest of the water dries out in the Madikwe Game Reserve. Skypore, you want to know what the Dussie eats as we watch these elephants approach the hole. The Dussie, or rock hyrax, is a vegetarian, so it would normally eat seeds and roots and fruits and that sort of thing. I suspect quite strongly that they will be partial to the odd insect as well. You say it looks so fat. Yes, he does look fat. Again, you know, city living generally does that to most of us. I am being facetious there. He won't go anywhere near human settlements, although the little reserve he lives in is close to the urban areas of Western Johannesburg. He won't go anywhere near them. Back to the elephants. They're marching steadily towards the waterhole at Tau. I think the temperature there is probably around about 24 degrees Celsius at the moment, which, if you're standing out in the sun, that'll be in the shade, it'll feel pretty warm, and it'll be one of the warmer days that we've had in the area since, say, I guess April, actually. So the whole country, although we're having a bit of a cold front coming through tomorrow, is now being enveloped in the warm breath of early spring, which I'm sure makes those of you living in the northern hemisphere feel rather, well, afraid of the coming cooler times for you. So we've got a breeding herd here, and there was a bull that looked like it was wandering off towards the herd, and now seems to have disappeared. John, you want to know, are elephants evolving to not have tusks? John, they're being selectively excluded from the population by human beings, such that the genes for tusks seem to be being removed. Now, are they evolving not to have tusks? I wouldn't say so, no. Tusks are extremely useful to them, and they're the disadvantage of having tusks, and the disadvantage of having tusks is that you get shot by human beings, hasn't been a disadvantage for long enough for elephants to have responded from an evolutionary point of view. So no, I don't think they're evolving not to have tusks, but certainly large tusked elephants are far fewer, and the genetics for them are far fewer, and that's because we keep shooting them. That is the way of human beings. I personally don't understand why we have to tolerate trophy hunting, but there it is. What are those in the background? A zebra in the background, and the bull just greeting the herd here. And there we go. It's just one other thing, John, on the tusks, is that it's quite interesting to note that the elephants here of Madikwe, I think a lot of them came from Addo Elephant National Park, and a lot of the Addo cows don't have tusks at all. And I'm not entirely sure why that is. I think it's probably largely an anthropogenic effect. Now they'll enjoy the mud, because they've arrived at the mud, which is nice. Anna, you say, does tau dry up in certain months? No, tau is pumped. And so unless the pump goes down or the aquifer from which the water is drawn dries out, no, this pan will not go dry. Which is quite nice if you're an elephant. And also if you're a guest at tau, because it means that there's always going to be water. And certainly between now and the first rains, which you'd expect somewhere between mid-October at the very earliest to, well, I mean, you might have the odd shower before then, but the first proper rains, say anywhere between mid-October at the earliest to early December, you'll have a huge concentration of animals at these waterholes now. Very nice. Right, let us go to the Olifants River quickly and have a look at a Bushbuck. The Bushbuck at the Olifants River is not a very unusual species. It's a quite common species for this part of the world, especially on the banks of the rivers. And I thought we'd just have a quick look and see what he's eating. Now, that's interesting. Let's just watch him carefully. This time of year, these tragolaphids, kudus, bushbucks, nyalas, giraffes, which are not tragolaphids, but the other three antelope that I've mentioned, will eat quite a lot or spend a lot of time sucking on old bones. And that's mainly because there are no leaves for them to eat and no fruits. And what the old bones do is give them phosphorus, apparently. That's the mineral that they most lack at this time of the year. And it looked a little bit like he was sucking on a bone, but he may have found some other source of food there. I'm not sure what it would be. Doesn't eat grass, so it'll be some kind of forb or fruit. And that beeping in the background is obviously some construction going on at one of the lodges near the Olifants River. I think we can see one there in the background. Given the tree that this bushbuck is standing underneath, it looks like a Virchilia gerardii, or red thorn. I think this bushbuck is probably finding pods from the Virchilia gerardii, or red thorn tree. Very nice. Now, we are going to go back to the rock Hyrax, simply because it is a world premiere. We've got a couple of questions of it, and we've still got a nice view of the rock Hyrax. DNC. Good morning, James, from Seattle. Made it just in time to see the rock Hyrax. We've got a lovely close-up there of a rock Hyrax that looks to be in a state of inebriation or deep relaxation. I tell you, it won't look like that if there are any black eagles in the offing. That's interesting. Did you see it blink its eye there? Let's just keep watching there. And just spare a thought for how irritating it must be having a fly crawling about on your face like that. Let's watch its eye. Please do what I was hoping you were going to do with your eye. What I'm watching for is a trait of elephants which I don't think any other mammal shares, as far as I'm aware. And I wasn't aware that the Dussie shared it. Now it is winning a staring contest on account of whatever substance it has imbibed. Come on. Just keep watching its eye, everybody. I'll tell you what it is if I don't see what I'm looking for in the next minute or so. Come on, little Dusty. Just trying to think if there are other areas where we have cameras where we should see these things, and I don't think there are. I think this is the only area where we would expect to see them. I'm really surprised that we haven't seen one here before. It's not doing what I was hoped it was going to do. Basically, elephants have got a nictitating membrane. It's a special sort of eyelid, and it's for sun and dust protection. And apparently a sort of bulge in each iris acts as a built-in sun visor, so you'll see it flipping across. And elephants have that. But I'm not aware of any other mammal that does, but I could be wrong. Anyway, that's what I saw as we came across to this little chap. Linda, you say it makes you think of a giant hamster. Yes, you see, a lot of people would say that, and that's because it does look like a rodent. But remember that this is not a rodent, so it is not vaguely closely related to a hamster or a rat or a mouse or a squirrel. And although it looks similar superficially, structurally inside, it's extremely different. Zygote, you want to know? Oh, you said we've seen a rock hyrax at Kwamaritani. Yes, I suppose you would see them there. There are lots of rocks around there. Kwamaritani meaning place of the rock, and therefore you would expect to find rocks and their associated hyraxes. Thank you for that, Zygote. It's good to know. So this is not a world premiere on Africam. It's a world premiere perhaps on the Africam show, but not for Africam. Okay, thank you very much for that, Zygote. Anna Emerson, while we wait for the nictitating membrane of this rock hyrax to slip across the eye and prove me correct, you say, what is the lifespan of a bushbuck? The lifespan of a bushbuck is probably between 10 and 12 years. It is difficult to say because very few are followed from birth until death in the wild, but probably that sort of region, 10 to 12 years. Boston guy, you say, looks like a little groundhog. Yes, it does look like a little groundhog, doesn't it? Very similar. Gigi, oh, what's the difference between a tree and a rock hyrax? I was rather hoping that you weren't going to ask that question because it's difficult to say. They look superficially very similar indeed. A tree hyrax is smaller and it makes a much more aggressive sound when it is in the throes of passion or about to get into passion, and when it is marking territory. Tree hyraxes are nocturnal, rock hyraxes are diurnal, but they look very similar. Really difficult to tell them apart. Tree hyraxes probably have slightly longer hair, but I tell you what, if you saw them next to each other and you didn't know, it would be quite tricky to say which were which. Good question. Tree hyraxes normally found in much wetter areas as well. I don't actually think that they have overlapping ranges. I'm just looking at a map now. And I can't seem to figure out what the map is saying because unlike the map that the maps we were told to draw in high school and junior school, actually, this one doesn't have a key. But you'll generally find that the tree hyraxes, figured it out now. The tree hyraxes occur where it's wetter. They obviously need a lot more trees. There won't be a huge number of trees where the rock hyrax is now. There will be some scrubby bushes and low trees, but they're like sort of thick woodland to forested areas, and probably just slightly wetter parts than, or wetter regions than the rock hyrax has? That's a nice question. Thank you very much for that. Linda, you say you bet they have very sharp teeth. They do have sharp teeth, Linda, although they also have those grinding molars, a bit like elephants. So they have two little sharp teeth at the front, but yeah, they don't have teeth like a carnivore has teeth. Lisa White, you say, James, isn't the hyrax related to a manatee as well? It is related to a manatee, absolutely, Lisa. Not very closely, but yes, they are related. I mean, when I say it's closest relative as an elephant, I mean, it's not a close relative. It is just the closest. And manatees, elephants, dugongs are sort of similarly related to each other, I think. Michael S., we got one that looks like that here, called the groundhog or the whistle pig. Yes, a whistle pig is an interesting animal and is, because it whistles and makes a loud noise, but I think it's also a rodent, which of course this chap isn't. And Mary for Wild says her eyes are going dry waiting for him to blink. Yes, mine are also going a bit dry waiting for him to blink. He's not doing a huge amount of blinking. Right, so there are 4 species of hyrax actually, so it's not just tree and rock. And the others, Leslie, you say you didn't know that elephants had nictitating membranes. Yep, I didn't either, actually, quite embarrassingly, until I saw them on safari with a guest. In fact, with a whole lot of guests doing a live safari. We get the Benin tree hyrax, the western tree hyrax, and then the eastern tree hyrax, and the southern tree hyrax. Sorry, there are 4 tree hyrax species. Gosh, that's very interesting. So lots and lots of tree hyrax species. And the southern tree hyrax here really looks nigh on identical to the one you're looking at now, which is a rock hyrax. Good. Right, we've only got about 4 minutes left, so I think we're going to leave this rather uncooperative yet very magnificent Darcy and see what else we can see quickly. Nice comment there from Boston Guy while we find another animal. Long whiskers probably likes to use to navigate in and out of the narrow spaces between the rocks. Yes, I would imagine those whiskers are probably used for that. Let's head across now and see what the elephants are doing at Tau. Dun, dun, dun. Watch out, little chap. Oh, not Chow, Tembe. Not Chow, Tau. But we've gone to Tembe. Now, there's a lovely big bull here. I love this waterhole. I think the sound is magnificent. The bird song of northern Maputo land is exceptional. And you can see immediately here that these bulls have got far larger ivory than the ivory seen on the elephants. Even the bull at Madikwe. Ooh. This is quite entertaining. A bull fight. Goodness gracious. The one on the left is substantially larger than the one on the right, and so the one on the right had better watch out. He'll find himself impaled. I don't think this is a serious fight. It's a little bit of what I like to call argy-bargy. I think if it was a serious fight, there'd be a lot more shouting, screaming, calling, rumbling. And also, I think the little one would run away. That knocking noise is their tusks bashing into each other, which is quite cool. Thank you, John. You carried on watching the Hyrax and you said he just blinked. The eyelids closed and there was also a membrane beneath them. There we go. Thanks for that, John. Thanks for your patience. I hope that you managed to blink while you were watching that. Otherwise, you might find yourself in need of an ophthalmologist. Yeah, I know this isn't a serious fight, but It's quite diagnostic of the condition of must, is that elephant with his trunk hung over his tusks. So perhaps just going into must. He doesn't seem to want to leave the younger one alone. Every time the younger one stands still, he gets left alone briefly, and then the older one goes after him. I mean, that is a formidable set of ivory, and it's not pointing to the ground, so I wouldn't like to get in its way. I wouldn't like to get in the way even of a tuskless elephant, but especially a tusked one like that would be particularly intimidating. Lovely sounds. Linda, you always love watching elephants? Yes. Who can blame you? They are magnificent animals to watch. And you're just going to notice an uptick in the amount of bird song as we head towards the warmer months, because now is the time that the birds are going to start their breeding behavior. The weavers will start weaving their nests, and all the other birds will start making their nests too. The migrants will start to return, and there will be a great cacophony of symphonic bird song, especially in the morning and towards the evening. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us for the Africam Show. We have run out of time. We will see you on Thursday for the Wild Moments Show, brought to you by explore.org. And until then, I hope that you will keep watching the Africam shows, or the Africam cameras, should I say. And thank you very much for your questions and for your contributions. Bye-bye.